Welcome to Mind Your Language and Your Business, the podcast where communication means business. We sit down with bold brands and brilliant minds to explore how language, culture, and connection drive strategic success in today's global marketplace. From translation tips to real world wins, if it speaks to your business, we're talking about it. Let's dive in. So, welcome, Alyssa, to our podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you. This has been a little bit in the making, but we finally got the stars aligned and here we are on a Friday before Easter. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to me today and welcome. So, your company is called Millerbernd Manufacturing. And I love the name because it's an alliteration. It has the M at the beginning of both words. And even though Millerbernd is not your easiest word to remember, I can remember it because of the M's. So, what does Millerbernd Manufacturing actually do?
Yeah, so Millerbernd is actually our owner's last name. Our founders were Millerburns. So Millerbernd is a third generation family owned business located in Winstead, Minnesota. We have 580 employees and over 750,000 square feet of manufacturing space. We manufacture heavy metals. So we are leading the industry in steel fabrication and manufacturing. We specialize in transportation and infrastructure solutions, such as Department of Transportation light poles and traffic signal structures, those things that everybody sees day to day, but never thinks, hey, how did that get there?
Okay.
It's something I never thought about until I started working here. And now I see light poles everywhere and go, oh, we made that one.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, yep. We also produce large scale circular products for OEM companies in industries such as forestry, wind energy, data centers, and defense as well as one of our other business units. So,
Wow. I already learned so much more than I knew. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you get to drive down the street and see something that you guys touched. Being in professional services, I've always been jealous of people who have a product that is a tangible product of some sort that they can point to and say, "We made that." So in Minnesota,
yeah.
you're like straight up 35 from us all the way north because we're in North Texas.
Yep.
My son used to live in Minnesota, and so I know it was get on 35 and drive straight for many, 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 many hours, and you get to Minnesota. But beautiful state, many good memories also. So, what is your role, Alyssa, at Millerburn Manufacturing?
Yeah, I am in HR. So I'm a senior HR business partner for Millerbernd Manufacturing, helping both the business and the employees and kind of building that bridge between what's best for employee and what's best for business.
So, that's the biggest, toughest job that I can think
Yes.
of.
Yes.
Uh, herding cats, being a diplomat, being the shoulder or the coach. Yeah, and mitigating legal risks, I imagine, for
Hmm.
the company.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of hats that I wear and the team. I have a team, a wonderful team that supports me as well, and we all are willing to put on whatever hat we need for the day.
Whatever hat we need for the day. What a great way to put it. I like that. You and I know each other because some of your employees are bilingual.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that. How did that come to be? And what does the landscape kind of look like in terms of what languages people speak at work, or what languages you have to sort of make the trip at least halfway to give that to them in a language that they're comfortable with?
Back when I started 3 years ago, we've grown so much and so much has changed, but 3 years ago when I started, we were a English speaking facility. We had it on our job descriptions. If you couldn't speak English, then there was probably some sort of safety component to the job, and it would make things more dangerous if you spoke another language that wasn't communicated across the shop. And we were put in a place where we were having a hard time in small Winstead, Minnesota, finding talent to come in and work in manufacturing, or people who are engaged in manufacturing are excited by it. And so we decided to make a change, and we hired some bilingual people to start, and we had some bilingual people who were already in our facility as well. So we were like, maybe we can leverage that and start training people who speak only Spanish. And so that was kind of the first mindset shift. We got a couple of Spanish only speaking employees in our doors, and it opened up this incredible market of incredible people who have really changed the culture of Millerbernd and made it better. And it's been fun to see watch it all grow. Yeah.
Almost gives me chills to listen to that. So you you made a challenge into your advantage.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's be honest, I imagine these are good jobs, right?
Yeah.
These
Yeah,
are
especially for our location, yes.
these are phenomenal jobs and phenomenal opportunities for someone to support their family. And for you to open your mind and open up your arms to people for whom English is not their first language, and in the process make it safe for them and make it safe for your company, it's already something. But then to hear you say the culture of the company changed and that it was a good thing because it changed in good ways. That's the cherry on the top that truly makes it so special. One component of your job is recruiting, right? Finding the right people to step up and work at your facility. So how has recruiting changed? What are you doing differently today compared to what you were doing like a year ago or a year and a half ago?
Yeah, we've changed a lot of our approach. So we have done things from, we didn't have applications online that were in Spanish unless somebody had set up their web browser to Spanish, or we didn't have the job descriptions in the posting as
Mhm.
Spanish. And because our system's different than the internet, they wouldn't always translate. So we were able to update that and then get more candidate flow. We also used to have walk-in Wednesdays is what we called it. So we would have employees who maybe weren't technology savvy or couldn't, navigate the website and the language barrier on our website to come in, and somebody would sit down with them and apply. And that process in itself was difficult
For
because
sure.
there's the language barrier of who worked here and who we were trying to get in front of hiring managers. We changed our screening process. So if somebody had limited English capability, we would get a much shorter phone screen with a candidate and not know really what their background was, what their skills are, what's the best position for them, where can we put them in the company. And with the on demand interpreting, which make a phone call and within 20 seconds you're connected, it's really helped us. And we use that daily for phone
Mhm.
screens for
Mhm.
candidates. And that's been amazing. Before we were using translation apps on our phones or
Yeah.
devices. We had purchased these little devices for translation, but not everything translates the way you
No.
want it to. So you'll get some weird responses, or they'll look at you funny, like, I don't think you said what you wanted to say. And so it's been really good to have that service and just kind of open our eyes and our doors to more opportunity.
So you've been able to find maybe better talent or maybe uncover because you can do pretty much a normal interview with someone like that. And to be clear for anybody who's listening, these are on-demand human interpreters. Maybe one day the AI will get there, but so far, in human resources, we use humans. And it's a human interaction. You're looking at
Yeah.
somebody who will put their trust into your hands and be your employee and vice versa. You're trusting them. And the human interaction at the beginning of it, I imagine, is pretty important. Um, do you know of any fun misunderstandings that happened along the way? Sometimes, we hear from people. Uh, I'll give you one, and then while you are thinking about it, had a customer way back when who used a free tool like Google Translate to translate a manual for employees who were taking care of landscaping around their facilities. And this was a large company. They had a campus that looked like a park. And the manual at some point said something along the lines of the grass on Mondays. They put it through Google Translate and it came out as something like harvest marijuana on Mondays instead of mow the grass. It's so, funny it's like that have happened. So I'm just curious if in your day to day with your employees, you have come across something like that.
I'm sure I have on a smaller scale, right? My HR hat, you say marijuana. I go, wait a second, not
I
at
think
work.
it's like, what?
Yeah. So nothing to that scale, but something I can think of is we had a hiring manager who had an interview, and at this point we were using translation apps.
Mhm.
And so he was using that translation app and he asked, what do you like to do for fun? Tell me a little bit about yourself. And we still don't know what the employee was trying to say, but it had come through the translation as I like eating the green frogs. And so we were like, okay, we're going to move on to the next question.
That is funny. Um, I know that the number one language for you that you deal with, besides English, obviously, is
Yeah.
Spanish, but are there any other language minorities in the area where you are? Do you think this at some point is going to become anything beyond Spanish?
At this point in time, I only really foresee Spanish, but I think we're open to any opportunity, right?
Mhm.
So we've grown so much in 3 years as a company. And then as a result, right, had these amazing employees join our team who wouldn't have been able to join our
Mhm.
team 3 years ago.
Mhm.
So I don't want to say like other people won't hear about it and say this is a great company, right? They want to support their employees and make sure that there's growth opportunity and we wanna be a part of that
Mhm.
culture that kind of embraces those differences and looks for growth.
Think you would have grown this much without truly leveraging this opportunity of hiring valuable employees and getting access to them in meaningful ways like you have?
Yeah, I think it would have been really hard to
Mhm.
climb as much as we have done in the last 3 years without those employees, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I think another just kind of to speak to the growth and like the way that we're trying to develop our employees, it's not just, yep, we're able to hire people. And so now we can fill these jobs and give them opportunity. But once, employees are in the door, we look, okay, what's our career trajectory? We've got a large portion of our native Spanish speakers in a couple of departments. And so
Mhm.
we're looking for ways to constantly move employees to different growth areas. And one way we've done that is through our internal weld school.
Mhm.
So we have a weld program. So if anybody doesn't know how to weld, wants to level up their welding skills, they can go through this program. And this year we had an opportunity to launch the first Spanish only weld session.
Oh,
And that was really exciting. And to see those employees have opportunities in the company to keep growing, I just think that speaks volumes of our culture, of our leadership, and of, the mindset that we have of anybody can achieve anything here. And we just want to keep growing.
oh, that's phenomenal. So, career pathways and ways to grow and develop, and they know that when they work for you. And you're doing it through language and through communication. That is truly fantastic. You also spoke at the beginning about how the culture has changed and it has changed for the better. Can you say more about that? How has culture developed in different ways than you imagined?
Yeah, I will say Millerbernd has a since I've been here, has had a really good culture. It's one of the reasons I'm here, right?
Mhm,
We're so
mhm,
people focused. But I think there was some stigma, right? Or closed-mindedness around different languages in the shop, whether it be safety concerns or whatever. But kind of seeing as we slowly brought people in, the capabilities, the drive, the motivation and engagement that these employees have, that's kind of dissipated. And it used to be, I don't know if we can hire a Spanish only person in this spot because, safety, or how are we going to do training too? Yeah, it can be either. It doesn't matter, right? We can hire somebody Spanish speaking, bilingual, English, whatever we need, we'll figure it out. And really having leaders partner and say, you know what, we'll figure it out if that's what an employee wants to do, or if we have a qualified candidate, we'll figure it out. And so they're not only just thinking strategically about the business and where the business need is for these positions, but how can we get people in who are qualified to do the job, even if we don't have the tools right away to make sure they can do it? So
mhm.
that's that's been cool to see.
And that's really hitting the nail on the head, I think, getting the people that are qualified, that are the right people for the job, no matter what language they speak, because we can get over the language barriers, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You're making my day, and it's Friday afternoon. I'm gonna go home with this feeling of this was so great. When you think of other companies, maybe like you a couple years ago, before you
Yeah.
started using language strategically, what advice would you have for them and how to dip their toe in, how to figure out if this is for them, even though I think anybody can make this work, but how to figure out how to get into it? What are the first steps? What are the baby steps? And then what next?
Yeah. No, that is a great question. So I kind of headed this project from the beginning. And so happenstance, we talked about it at a meeting one day as an HR team, and your email arrived in my inbox of, hey, looking for language opportunities. And I'm like, I sure am. Let's set up a meeting. And so I think just being curious is the first step, right? So
Mhm,
whether it's setting up time with somebody who has, a linguistics platform, or
mhm,
if it is another company in the area, or someone who worked at another company
mhm,
who had multiple languages, right?
mhm,
What did you do? How did it work? What issues did you see? What did you like about it, not like about it? And that's kind of where I started, right? Is okay, what are some things people have tried and how can we take it, implement it, do better, fix the things that they saw? And that was kind of the starting point. But my advice to anybody who's thinking about it would be do it. You don't always have to have the plan, right? You're not always gonna have the project of, "I have to do this first, this first, this first." Sometimes opportunities just present themselves, and like anything, you make it work,
mhm,
right? So, that's been a lot of this. We did a nice analysis, and after that, it was, "Okay, we're gonna do it," and then the plan that was in the analysis was not the plan that we followed. It was
mhm,
thrown out the window, and we said, "Okay, we'll figure it out," and here we go, and it's been great. It's been busy sometimes, but it's
mhm,
been great.
mhm. Are there any pitfalls to avoid? Anything that you'd be like, "Yeah, we've done that, didn't work, don't do it." What would that be?
Oh, great question. I would say the translation apps.
Don't do it.
Don't do
Not
it.
there yet. Yeah.
I mean, I am not a fluent Spanish speaker by any means. So I still use the translation app, right? When somebody comes in. This is another great thing about us is we have Rosetta Stone for our leaders right now, or anybody in the company who's interested in learning Spanish, because we had so many people asking for it. So
Mhm.
I'm enrolled right now and learning. And we also have English courses for our Spanish speakers who want to learn English. So
That was
that's been
gonna
really
be
cool
my
too.
next question. If
Yes.
you're actually doing English classes for your employees, because I imagine if you have employees who want to learn Spanish, you have employees who would like to get
Yes.
their English to a better level. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so we're doing both, and
Uh-huh.
that's been really cool. But yeah, I would say translation app, don't use them as your primary resource. They're a great tool in a pinch, but even if, I'm using a translator with an employee who comes in and we're looking at the app, if it seems to be something that's a bigger conversation, I'll stop and I'll either call somebody on demand or I'll find a bilingual team lead to come in and help
Mhm,
facilitate the conversation
mhm.
because really people deserve to feel heard, right? And valued, seen, recognized, and be able to have that human connection that you alluded to earlier, right? Translating on a phone isn't the same as actually having a dialogue. So,
Yeah. And to be fair, the apps are useful. I use them when I travel, for example. They're meant for social conversations. But the
yeah.
second it goes into anything HR related, anything, God forbid, that could have legal implications, you want to escalate it to a
Yes.
human to make sure that everything is conveyed correctly and that the message gets delivered, because sometimes the what the apps still do is really replace one word with another, but they miss on things like idiomatic language and context of the conversation. They're getting better all the time, but we usually tell our clients it's good when you go see your friend in Italy or for social conversations, which has its place in a workplace also. Um, but if it matters, if it's potentially legal, if it's anything around safety, anything about health, those types of things, you want a human in the conversation. I can't really thank you enough for doing this, Alyssa. It's so heartwarming to see what you have done with language in your company and how you were able to leverage it for your company, but also for the employees. And imagine the shift in the culture has been positive and more open-minded and supportive, and it's a win, right? It gives you wind in your sails. It's like we've done this. We can do anything now because we have the right people in the boat. So I wanted to thank you really from the bottom of my heart for taking the time today to talk to me and share this. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for sharing with me and with anybody who will listen to this. And I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time today too.